Today's webinar is on Invoices Advanced. So we're going to be covering a number of things. We're going to be talking about different types of accounting, the effect of reports, tax exemptions, tips and tricks, taking payments, reward points, and commissions. So those are the things that we're going to go through in this webinar. So the very first thing I want to start with is the different types of accounting that you may be using and what might work best for you. So right at the very bottom, you're going to see what works best for you, talk to your accountant. But I just wanted to explain that FrameReady is capable of handling these two types of accounting. One is the accrual system of accounting, and the other one is the cash-based system of accounting. And your financial advisor is going to be the person who's going to help you decide which one's best for you. Now, the accrual system is the one that FrameReady was originally set up to do. It's recommended for most small businesses, and it has a lot of benefits with it as well. The revenue is recorded as it's created, so that when you create a work order, you're going to post it to an invoice because when it's a sale, all right, and that's when your taxes are calculated because it's on an invoice and it's part of the sales that are coming in. This is the most common method of accounting that there is, and it gives you an accurate picture of your financial state. Now, there are benefits as well for the cash system of accounting, and that is that it's designed for companies that maybe don't have very much cash on hand. So they want to use a cash system accounting, which means that you only are going to count taxes or something, a dollar amount being taxable when you have received cash for it. So it's the cash that you receive that's taxed, not the full invoice amount. So you could have an invoice for $100, and in the accrual method, it's going to say you're paying the tax on the $100. In the cash system, it's going to say I only received $50, so I'm only going to pay taxes on the $50 that I received. So that's the difference in a nutshell between the two of them. There are some other differences as well. Now, the revenue is not recognized until cash exchanges hands, right? And it says in most cases, when I was researching this, it said that it's easier to use the cash system of accounting, and that's because if you're doing it manually and doing it all by hand, it would be easier. But I find either system is easy in FrameReady, and I think that the accrual system is a little bit easier even. The other advantage to the cash system is that it's easier to manage your cash flow because you simply look at your bank statements and said, yeah, that's the money. And that's in the cash system of accounting, you wouldn't even look at the accounts receivable or accounts payable. Now, the downfall of each one of these is that, or maybe the con against it, is that the accrual system may not show a short-term cash flow problem, despite looking profitable in the long term. And I would tell you that if, in order to combat that, you would want to look at the summary report in FrameReady. And the summary report tells you what your cash flow is, and this is where you can see whether you've got more things that are going on to accounts receivable and fewer things that are being paid cash in hand, and you want to be aware of that. So that's on the summary report that you're looking for that. And on the cash system side, it may overstate the health of your business, because if it is cash rich, but there are a large number of accounts payable which have not been paid, of course, those haven't been recorded at all in the cash system of accounting. So definitely talk to your accountant to find out which of these systems works best for you. But we're going to take a look at them. And the report that I want to show you is if you are using the cash system of accounting, the one report that you do want to take note of. And that is, we're going to go into FrameReady now. And here's the main menu in FrameReady. And if you are using the cash system of accounting, you want to look at the payment report. You can still go through the sales reports, but please be advised that most of them are not going to apply to the cash system of accounting. So we want to go to the payment report. And in here, you would enter in the date, and I'm just going to choose today's date for us to look at. And then when we click proceed, it's going to find all of the invoices that were generated today. And you would use this regardless of whether you were using cash accounting or accrual accounting systems. And this tells you how much money you are putting in the bank that day. So this should balance with your cash drawer to say, yes, I've received this much in cash. So this is your income that you received. Now, if I go to the next report that's on the list, this is the one that you want to look at if you're handling the cash system of accounting, because it's calculating your taxes based on that income. So this is the exact same dollar amount that you saw on the previous report. And what it's doing is it's taking that amount and it's finding out how much of it is non-taxable. So it pulls that number out automatically. Then it looks at the remaining balance. Okay, so this amount minus from that total amount over there. Now this is the taxable portion, but then it has to remove the taxes out of that portion. So there's the taxes that are owed on this portion, okay, minus the non-taxable amount. And these three numbers total are going to be the amount over on the left-hand side of the screen. So basically what it's doing is it's taking the taxable portion out of the amount that's left that should be taxable, and it's pulling the tax out of it. All right, it's not adding it on to it. So if you have only one tax, you may notice over on the right-hand side that another tax 2 appears, or those columns are no heading at all, do not have a heading. And there may be dollar amounts here. And what I found out is that if you had something from the work orders, such as the labor, you mark that as being non-taxable, it does mark the box on the screen for the second taxable column, which means it will show up here. Ignore that. If you are only using one tax entry, then just follow the first set of columns on the left-hand side of the report. Okay, we're going to carry on. There we go. There's a list of every item sorted by category. And again, if you are doing either system of accounting, that report could be valuable to you because it's based on category of the items that you received payment on that day. So the question then is, what are the things that affect the reports that you're using? And so I do want to go over to the invoice screen, because on the invoice screen, there is a consignment box here. And you may have some consignment items that you have sold. And if you wanted to find them, you can simply click on the Find button and then take a look at consignment, put an X or a check mark in the box for consignment, and then perform Find. And I'm just going to ask for this year alone. Okay, and there are the consignment items that I have received. So because there is a check mark on this item, that means that it will give me the consignment report. If at some point in time you realize afterwards that you didn't check the box in the products file for that item, then you can still check the box here. The only thing to remember is that it does have the unit price on here, so it will calculate that. But because you didn't check it earlier, then what's going to happen is that when you print out the consignment report, there won't be a dollar amount, because when you entered it on here, it did not have it. So one of the things that you could do is, just as a little tip, that if that should happen and you have sold this consignment item, that you could go back and we'll say, take that out. We could re-enter it again a second time if we've gone back to the products file, put in the consignment amount to be paid to the artist, and then re-enter that item on here. So I'm going to go back here and show you in the products file. This is where you would want to see that wholesale amount. Okay, so for any consignment item that I have, find any of the consignment items that I have in here. Over on the left-hand side of the screen, this is the amount that's paid to the artist. This is the amount that it will retail for. And if I go down to the bottom here, so this is the amount that I pay to the artist. This is the amount that it will retail for. So if you have entered that box and you've checked it here on the products file prior to the sale, it will enter this wholesale amount, which is the amount you're paying the artist, onto the report. If you haven't checked it out ahead of time, then it won't do it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just show you that if I had not entered that in at this point in time and I wanted to sell this particular bracelet, I'm going to go to the invoice, click on the invoice, enter in that product number, and you see that the box is checked. But even if I take a payment for this item, and we'll say Visa, and done, and I'll put a customer in here. There we go. If I go back and I want a report for the artist, okay, I'm going to go back and you're going to see that it's not going to give me the values that I want. So sales reports, we're looking at consignment reports based on the artist. Okay, I want a consignment report for the month of March. Okay, and I'm going to click proceed. All right, with page breaks, if I wanted to, or without, I'll do without for now. If you did with page breaks, you can give each artist their own page and it gives them the dollar amount. But you can see that that chainmail bracelet doesn't have the wholesale amount in there. So I have not calculated it and it's blank from the report. So here's the trick. How do you get that to go back in there, even though you've already entered it onto the invoice? So I'm going to go back to the invoice. Now, before I do that, I need to enter the amount into the products file. So now if I put that dollar amount back into the products file, now it's in there. I want to go back to the invoice screen. I'm going to click on the purple data entry button. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to it's not going to rechange the inventory that I have because I really am just using that same one item. But now when I go back to that report on the main menu, I'm going to click on sales reports. I'm going to go to artist. And again, I'm going to select that I only want to do the reports for the month of March. I forgot to say just the consignment reports, but that's all right. It's still here. There it is. There's the $35 that is showing for that particular artist. So if I was to do the consignment report, it would show the $35 now. And it hasn't modified my invoice, my inventory at all because I've just swapped the item out. Okay, so let's go back now to take a look at another thing that's going to affect your invoices, and that is the category field. And usually the only time that this would affect your reports adversely is if you were manually entering something on there. So that if I created a new invoice and I'm looking for a product in the products file and I can't find it because it isn't in there, then what happens is that you wind up entering something in and saying, this is the canvas, that medium size that I'm selling, and the retail price is going to be $20. It already put the quantity in, and that was great. But the part that you're missing here is the category. If I don't enter in a category, it's not going to show up on any of my category reports. It does show up on the other sales reports, but it really is a good idea to make sure that you select the category that this item is going to go into. So if it's going into painting supplies or art, or whatever it is that you have, make sure that you select the category so that it shows up on the category reports. And if you want to see more detail about all the categories, or sorry, the reports that are affected by that, we did do a webinar called Sales Reports 101, and you can check that out and see all of the reports on that. I'm just going to go and enter in another customer in here and go take a payment and say done. Go to form view. And that saves me one extra step when I do the done, go to form view. So the next thing to take a look at is taxes and the tax exemptions and how they affect things in your reports and on your invoices. Customers, there are 3 areas where taxes can be set up. One of them is in your contacts file. So if you go to the contacts file, there's a section here called terms, and under terms you'll see that there is a portion down in the bottom part of the screen where you can find the tax exemption area. Customer will not receive a tax exemption unless they have something entered into that field. Now normally you want to enter in that tax exemption number for that customer, and that will create the tax exemption for them. But 2 other fields in here that you should take a look at are also the expiry date. So if there is an expiry date for when that tax exemption expires, you want to enter that in. Or you might want to select to say status, I have a certificate on file for this, or it's pending, they're going to be bringing it in soon, or I need to do some follow-up because perhaps it's expired and I need to get a copy, and they said they would send one and they still have not done that. So you can identify what you need to do with those in this status area. Now the other thing is, this is not, the exemption number is not restricted to just the numbers. What people have put in there before is out of state. So if this is an out of state customer and taxes do not apply to them, then you can put out of state in there. So you could put into that field either text or numbers and it will work for you. It'll just give you the ability to use that field in either way. The other place where you can enter in a tax exemption is on a retail product. So if the retail product itself is tax exempt, then you can check the box for tax exemption. If it's tax only single tax exempt or double tax exempt, or if you just have the one tax exempt, then you don't have to worry about the second one. Just put the check mark in the box, and the next time that you put that item onto an invoice, taxes will not be applied to that one item. So there's the other way that you can do that. Now, the third option is that you are on the invoice with the customer and you've created the item and you've added it in. So let's go and paste that item in again. And now you realize that this should have been a tax exempt item, but it isn't. It's calculating the taxes down at the bottom of the screen. So now what I want to do is I want to move over to the right-hand side of the screen and I want to check the box to say that this is tax exempt. And you'll see that there are no taxes applied to this item now. So, and that's just a one-time thing. It will show up on your reports saying that this is a tax exempt item and everything will be calculated correctly. It's just that you needed to manually check the box if it was not checked previously for this item to be tax exempt. So those are the three areas that you can add those tax exemptions in. But there's also the reason that you may need to change this because the customer themselves is tax exempt. And if we were to go to locate, and you can even find all of your tax exempt customers in the contacts file, you can click find, and then in the tax exemption field where we would have a number or something, if it's text or if it's a number and you're not sure which it is, just type in the asterisk. That's our wild card. And you can also find that under operators, 0 or more characters when you're doing your perform find, and that will find every one of your customers who is tax exempt. So if I was to take a look at one of these tax exempt people that are in my database, and I've entered them onto a work order, but this happens occasionally where if they have a new work order and this customer is doing some framing at home for themselves, and they don't necessarily want to have it, they shouldn't be tax exempt. So in this case, what happens is when I enter the customer in, it's going to show me that this customer is tax exempt. And over on the right-hand side, you'll see that there are no taxes being calculated for this customer. But if this framing is specifically for them personally and it is taxable, then I can go up to the top right-hand corner of the screen, click on the Options tab, and over here, I'm going to check the box to say they are not tax exempt. So now the taxes will appear over on the right-hand side. And again, if you only have one tax, then you don't need to enter in the second tax exempt option. If you only have one tax, just need to check the first box, and that's it. So now taxes have been applied for this one work order only. Okay, any other time that they come in, again, as a customer, if they're a wholesale customer, then that's fine. They will be tax exempt. Okay, Chrissy, we're going to stop there and see if you have any questions, and also, of course, you have that fun poll that you're going to run.
Sure do. So I'm going to launch the poll now for you. Which accounting system do you use? Accrual, cash, other, or not sure? And while we're waiting, we do have a question.
Okay.
I have had an instance or two of a work order stating a job is $502.36. But when posted to an invoice, the total ends up being $502.37. Difference is only a penny, but why does it do this at random? Only happens when there is more than one work order being posted to an invoice.
Okay. And that's a really good question. There is this thing called rounding, and that if you were to take apply tax to 5 different individual items or 20 different individual items, and then take the tax and total it up, you're going to get a different amount than if you take the total of all those 5 or 20 items and then calculate the tax on those items. So actually, that's a really good, I'm going to include that. There's a whole document on rounding that we have, and I'll include that in the email that's going to go out to you, that why the rounding happens, and basically it explains it. It's an accounting phenomena, and there isn't any way to work around it, but it does explain it at least.
Thank you. I'm going to share our results of the poll now.
Okay. Yeah. Super. So, wow, it's kind of an even split around there. That's interesting. Okay, thank you, Chrissy. That's great. I'm just going to go back into FrameReady that. So I'm going to show you some tips and tricks back here on the work order. One of the things that you can do in an invoice, and I'm not sure if you're aware that you can do this, and it can be a very handy feature. One of the reasons that somebody may want to do this is that they have somebody who comes in on a recurring basis and they purchase the same thing over and over, perhaps every month. And it doesn't involve any framing. So it's just an item that they purchase. And so if I do have an item that they've purchased and I want to duplicate the invoice, and maybe they have 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 different things on there, then what you can do, and actually I'm not going to use Chrissy because I've got her set up to do something else later. So if I was to go into something else that they're purchasing, what you can do is duplicate the invoice. Down in the bottom left-hand corner, there's the button that says duplicate invoice. And when I click on that, it's going to just automatically duplicate all the items that were on that invoice, create a brand new invoice, giving me a new invoice number at the top right-hand corner of the screen. And then all I need to do is take a payment. And of course, probably the easiest way for you to go ahead and duplicate that really is to go and, if you were working with a customer, is to find them in the contacts file, locate them by their name. Okay, actually he's the only one that says Wesley, and then you can go to the invoice section to find the invoice, whichever one it is that you duplicate over and over again. Or if you want to find them, let's go back to the main menu, and because it's something that's on their invoice, so you know it's a specific item that they always duplicate, evening song. And then you know who the customer's name is, you would enter that in and you would find their invoice on the screen, and then you can go to that and duplicate it. So that's just one of the little tips about that you can use. The other one is the subtotal by. This is the subtotal by on the screen here, where you may have lots of entries on the record. And I don't actually have an example of that I've set up, but if we go to the work order screen, probably the best place to see this in action is when you have, if you have something that's going out to a corporate case where you've got some corporate framing that you're doing and you've got a large number of items that are going into a certain location. So I'm going to just go say, let's go find something that either has a plan or a side mark or a room, because this is where you would subtotal by. So if you have something in the side mark field and you've got subtotal by, then you could enter in that this is going to be the office, this is going to be the hallway, this is going to be, and it gives people a chance to group them onto the invoice, so that when you have them grouped on the invoice, what I do is I'm going to ask to subtotal this one by hall, okay, and I'm going to create this one over here, and that one too is going to be by hall, and then I'm going to give them a job number, because I am going to create. Okay, so I want to use job number 85. And I usually go from the bottom working upward. I find that's a little bit easier. And then the numbers stay up at the top. 99, 85. And then if I was to go to any other work order on here and just duplicate that work order for the same customer, no. And this is going to be for my customer Bonnie, update no, not right now. And this is going to be for 9985. And I don't even really need to put the customer in because it's automatically going to be matched together. But now this one, I want to go into the office. So when I post these to an invoice now, and let's go find all 3 of those. There's the one for Bonnie. I'm going to go click post to invoice. It's going to subtotal those items onto the invoice. Continue. There we go. All of these items for Bonnie. And you can see the subtotal column on here, so that when I print these out, it's going to sort them out differently than it would have before. So if I click on the printer icon, you can see that for the hall, the total is this much. All right, and there are 2 pieces going in the hallway. And then for the office, the total is this much, and there's only 1 piece going into the office. And of course, I have labor separated out here because it's non-taxable. All right. So let's go back here to take a look at the next one, and that is the subtotal for entering pre-tax amount. There's a secret button on here, and that's the one I thought that we were working with first. This is the subtotal area. If I was to click on that, because I'm entering in a credit card transaction manually, and I wanted to know, what do I enter in as the taxable portion? What do I enter in as the non-taxable portion? So those are the two amounts that are totaling to this here. And then you can see the tax is this much. But when you're entering in a credit card transaction manually and you want to be able to enter in the non-taxable and the taxable, just clicking on this field for subtotal will give you those two numbers that you need to enter in. The find and sort all unpaid invoices. That gives you instantly every single one of the items that you need that is unpaid. Now, the other thing is taking payments. If you were to go to, and I'm going to go to my customer, Mary, and I want to find all of the invoices for Mary. And there we go. There are the invoices for Mary. She has a number of unpaid invoices on here, and she wants to make a payment on them. So let's go back to the main menu and say that Mary has just arrived and she wants to make a payment. I can actually do this right from her contact file. If I was to click on Find Contact and enter in, and we'll find Mary. And now over here underneath the Receive Payment tab is where I will see all of the invoices that have outstanding balances, and she can pay for these. So there are two ways to get to this screen. This is the screen that you're ultimately going to get to. But also, if I was on one of her invoices, which we just saw previously, if I was to go to one of the invoices where she has a balance owing, that same button is available on the left-hand side of the screen, dollar to multiple invoices. So if I click on the left-hand side of the screen on this button, it will take me directly back to the other screen. It's just going to confirm that this is the customer, and if I say yes, it goes directly back to her record in the contacts file that we were previously viewing. Now, if she has a certain amount that she wants, and she wants to pay $200 off, and she wants to select which invoice to pay that to, then you can enter that amount in and check the box, and it applies it just to that one. Let's go back and do this again. So I want to make that 100 because it's easier for you to be able to see the results when we do this, when we come back here. There we go. So we've added $100 to each one of these invoices. We're going to click on the Submit Payment button. And when we click on that, the $200 total is going to be applied. You can select what the tender is that they're going to be using. You don't need to enter in anything into the reference field. And as I mentioned before, you do not enter any credit card numbers in this field. This is only if there was an authorization number that you wanted to enter in. Process the payment. Would you like to print out the two invoices? And I'm going to say yes, because you can see then that this has the $100 that was applied to it. I did this earlier on this exact same invoice, and it now knows that $200 was applied on the exact same day. So that's why it's giving me that number. That's what happens when you test a feature before, and normally you wouldn't do that, but there were $200 applied today on those two invoices within about an hour of each other. So let's go on to the next feature then. So that's the applying the multiple invoices. And actually, Chrissy, we have another poll that you can do. So let's go ahead and do that.
So here's our quick poll. Do you use the following? Rewards points, staff commissions, clear out bad debts at year end, or accounting software? All right, I'm going to close the poll and share our results.
Okay. There we go. Yep, accounting software, excellent. So let's go back and we're going to take a look at two features that you could be using if you want to. And the first one is reward points. And this is set up in the options tab on the invoices under more options. And when we get to rewards, you can decide what the value is you want. So this is a dollar value here. So if you were to say that for every $10 that a customer spends, they will earn one reward point. Okay, and for every dollar in order to spend a dollar, they have to earn 10 points. So it's just a way, and you can change the ratios. If you can change the values if you want and say maybe it's going to be 20 points for that. But I like to use the 10 just for showing you how it's going to calculate out. So you also have the option to say that you want the rewards points to be used to pay taxes, sales tax, and I don't have that selected. So my reward points are going to stay in the upper portion of the invoice, and that's the line item entry screen. So if we want to see points that are on a customer has earned, then I'm going to go to the record that I set up for Chrissy, because she has been able to earn some reward points. And you can see it right here. It says that she has 6 points that she has earned. Okay, so that's where it shows up on this screen. And if I was to go to an invoice screen, then it would show up in a different location. So if we go here, you can see in the top center, it says that she has 6 reward points. Now this is going to change a little bit because what I can do is create an invoice now. So I'm going to create an invoice for Chrissy, new invoice for her, just for her, and we'll put in something that isn't too large. It's just going to be $10. Okay, and if I put Chrissy's name in there, so of course if you were putting in valued customer, they're going to get the points, not Chrissy, and she's going to pay for that. And once she pays for that, you're going to see that up in the top right hand corner, it's saying that she has her 6 points right now. She's paid for this. She doesn't earn her points though until I click on the done button. And once I click on the done button, now you can see that she has 7 points because she has to spend $10 in order to earn 1 point. Now she's going to need to get to 10 points in order to be able to redeem them. So what I want to do next then is show you that you can also override the points. So she got $10 spent, earned her 1 point, but I've also given someone else a bit of a better deal. And you can do that for any number of reasons that you may want to have a different point system. So in here, if you go to the Invoices/Rewards tab, you'll see that there's a place where you can override this. So while Chrissy earns 1 point for every $10, Julia is getting double the points. She's getting $5 spent will earn her 1 point. So that if I create an invoice for her, it will generate that same item, it's going to generate 2 points. And there's different reasons why you may have points. Maybe you're giving everybody discounts and you don't want them to have as many points. You may have a customer that's a really good customer for you and you want them to have more points. So there's different reasons why you may want to override the points for them. So if I was to create an invoice for Julia, and we can go back and actually, we'll just go back to here then. And I'll say create a new invoice, and I'm going to sell that same item, which was 984111, I believe, small canvas. And I'm going to sell this item to Julia. Okay, she's going to pay for it the same as Chrissy did. And when I click done, she has earned 2 points now, where Julia, where Chrissy earned 1 point. So now she has 4 points left to use. So those are all tracked on the screen back in the contacts file. And you'll be able to see that every time that we've created one, it's documented on the right-hand side of the screen. So previously today, Julie earned 2 points for purchasing something, and she's earned another 2 points today. But there's other things that will happen so that we want to track as well. And that is when we're redeeming points. So how are we able to redeem points? So I'm going to go back to the invoices, and I'm going to create an invoice for Chrissy because in this case, she's not really going to be able to redeem the points. So I'm going to sell that same item to Chrissy. And I'm going to say that, let's put Chrissy in there so she can get her points. Okay, she has 7 points, and I'm going to say that I want to apply the points. I'm going to click on that, even though I've said she gets 10 points in a 10. Okay, but because it's able to calculate it out, it will let you do it. So you can redeem less than the 10 points to get $1. But in this case, I may say, you know what? Oh, it didn't even give you $1. You sure you want to do that? Let's just keep letting your points add up. And in that case, we can do that. I'm going to remove that using the teal colored X. on that side of the screen. And let's say that she's going to purchase some other items instead. So we'll give her something else that she can purchase that's going to give her a little bit more value on her piece here. So I'm just going to pick a piece, and then we've got that entered in. So she's earning a few more points. She's going to pay for this, of course, because otherwise you don't get your points. So we'll say done. And now we're going to click done again. And we're going to go back and take a look at how that affects Chrissy's record in the contacts file. So you can see on Chrissy's record that I had said that we were going to redeem those 7 points, and it did. It said we redeemed them, but then it also says we deleted the line. So it's very factual. So every transaction you make is being documented on there in regards to the rewards points. So when she finished, she actually had the 4 points. So now we want to say, yes, she does have enough points that she can redeem them. So we want to go ahead and create an invoice for Chrissy. And we're going to say, yes, she's going to redeem these points, and we'll follow through and show that they actually have been redeemed. So if I was to create an invoice, and I'll just do a find for something, oh, not the evening song. Let me just go find anything by an artist on here. There we go, something for $50 at least. And now if I put Chrissy's name in there, and she's purchasing this item, she has the ability now, she has 11 points, so if she wanted that dollar off, she can get the reward points added in here. So now she's got $1.10, she's used up all of her points, okay? And now I'm gonna select a payment, and we'll say that she's paying for this, and then when we're done. So now when I click the done button, she's at 0 points now because she's redeeming these points, but she has just spent another $50. So she is going to earn points on those, on that dollar value spent. So when I click done, you'll see that she now has 4 points over here. So when we go back to the contacts file, you can see that she's redeemed 11 points, and she has earned another 4. So she has been able to keep track of all her points and what has been redeemed. So take a look at the commissions. And if we go back to the main menu, the commissions are set up under the Options tab on the Invoices, under More Options. And down in the bottom left-hand corner here is the section for commissions. And this is where you would set it up. So you would enter in the people, click on New Record, add the name in for the person you want, and then if there's a name in there that you don't need, you can click on Delete Record, make sure that you are in the record that's going to be deleted, okay, and then delete the record, and then that person will be removed. These are set up, so when they are set up, that knows that it's set it up today as of this time, and that's when these amounts are going to take effect. So when I click Done, it's done them already. And when you want to print out a report based on the sales for those, we're going to go back into sales reports, and we're going to take a look at the commission sales. Now the commission sales are based on the pre-tax amount. So I'm going to take a look at today's sales, and when we click on proceed, we'll get a report, and this is for each individual person. So Carl can see how much the amount was that he received, and this would be one of those moments where Carl may be surprised because he had a sale that went through for $2,000. However, the customer only placed $200 on as a payment. So this is on the payment, okay? And then before taxes, and then the rate that he receives, and there's the commission amount. And if you go through the pages on this section, you would see each of the different people, and if they had a large number, you'll see that the totals for them are at the top of the screen. So in this first page section, each person who receives a commission has their own page, and you can print that out and give that to them, or save it as a PDF to give to them. Okay, the second part of this is that where you can see each of the individuals who have received something and what's on there. So we have a sale for each of them that's on there, and the total for everyone, how much you've given out in commissions, is on the list as well. So fairly simple, easy to read report that you can use. Now, the next thing is what happens if you change the commissions halfway through. So Julia on our report over here under the commissions is listed as having a 5% commission. But if we decide, and you could see that she did have a sale that was 5%, but if we decided to change that now, and we're going to enter that in as 10%, and I've entered it as a decimal, and when I click outside the field, it changes to 10%. If you were to enter in as 10% and click outside the field, it's still going to go ahead and do that. So just a little, I always like to click on the outside just to check the number ahead of time. So I'm going to click done. And now if we sell something to Julia, she has a commission at 10%, and she also has one at 5% if we sell something right now. So let's create a brand new invoice, and we're going to sell an item for Julia. And she is going to be the sales rep because it's based on whose name is on the sales rep here. Okay, and it doesn't matter who the customer is, we'll put them in. It does matter that we have taken a payment because you only receive commission on the payments that were made, not on the total invoice amount. So now Julia has a commission based on this $10 payment that was made. So I'm going to go click on done. Okay, and now when I go back to the main menu and I click on that report, the sales report for commissions, and we do the exact same thing, which is today's report, and we click proceed, you'll see that Carl has one there, Carol, and we'll go all the way over to Julia now, and you can see that first payment that I made earlier today when she had a 5% commission shows up individually here, and then down below it shows that she had a second payment, a sale that she made that was at a 10% commission, and so she earned more on that one. So this detailed report gives the breakdown and prevents any questions about when, you know, I had 10% or I had whatever the percentage was. This is going to answer all those questions for them. And of course, the second one is her total, which shows the new rate. It doesn't show the old rate plus the new rate because it's just one amount that's in there. So she may be a little confused as to why she is receiving the amount she is, which is why we have that detailed report. Super. So there's the detailed information. Chrissy, are there any other questions on anything that we've covered today?
Yeah, going back to the rewards, they're wondering if they can retroactively give customers points.
Oh, good question. Yes, yes, you can. If you were to go back into the contacts file, let me go find Chrissy's page, or actually it doesn't really matter who, but you're my points person today. So if at some point in time I wanted to change the points, you cannot change the total points down here. Okay, but I can go in and change an amount on any of these items that I have added in there. In your case, you're starting out with a customer who doesn't have any reward points. So if I was to find someone who does not have any reward points, which means that this is blank down here at the bottom. Okay, and we'll just pick
he hasn't used it yet, so he'd like to give customers points for past jobs that they've done for them.
Ah, I see. Okay. I'm going to have to take a look and see if there is some way, because otherwise the only thing that I know that you could do is just to, you know, add it, go to the bottom of the list and say I want to add in 50 points for this customer. There's no way to go, once you're in the invoice screen and you click on the done button from the line item entry screen, that's when it's calculating. So as far as I know, there isn't any way for you to go and retroactively go through your invoices to calculate rewards on past invoices. Thank you everyone for joining us today for the webinar, and we will look forward to seeing you again. Thank you.
Bye.